Was Jesus being rude to the Pharisees by pointing out their faults? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Luke on Walking Through the Bible. If you have a Bible with you, turn to Luke chapter 11. We're going to be reading from verses 45 to 54. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So Luke chapter 11, beginning at verse 45. Then one of the lawyers answered and said to him, "Teacher, by saying these things you reproach us also." And he said, "Woe to you also, lawyers, for you load men with burdens hard to bear, and you yourselves do not touch the burdens with one of your fingers. Woe to you, for you build the tombs of the prophets, and your fathers killed them. In fact, you bear witness that you approve of the deeds of your fathers, for they indeed killed them, and you build their tombs. Therefore, the wisdom of God also said, I will send them prophets and apostles, and some of them they will kill and persecute, that the blood of all the prophets which was shed from the foundation of the world may be required of this generation, from the blood of Abel to the blood of Zechariah, who perished between the altar and the temple. Yes, I say to you, it shall be required of this generation. Woe to you, lawyers, for you have taken away the key of knowledge. You did not enter in yourself, and those who were entering in you hindered." And as he said these things to them, the scribes and the Pharisees began to assail him vehemently, and to cross-examine him about many things, lying in wait for him, and seeking to catch him in something he might say, that they might accuse him. This section of Luke takes place while Jesus is at dinner with the Pharisees. We might think that it is surprising that Jesus would eat with the Pharisees, for they would often try to trick him and catch him in his speech. However, the Pharisees were in need of the gospel too, and so if they wanted to dine with Jesus, Jesus went and taught. The entire discourse takes place as a result of the Pharisees noting that Jesus didn't wash his hands before a meal. Washing your hands before a meal wasn't done for hygiene purposes. It was done as a tradition of the elders in order to show that one was religious and ritualistically clean. It was not commanded under the law of Moses, and thus did not signify anything as far as one standing before God, because man cannot dictate to God the terms of man's own cleanliness before God. Jesus took the opportunity to teach the Pharisees about their own hypocrisy, how they appeared religious on the outside, but on the inside were actually wicked. Now to us this might seem rude, for Jesus was an invited guest, but the condition of one's soul to God is more important than offending your host, so Jesus taught the Pharisees what they needed to hear. We need to do this as well today. Continue on with verse 45. The lawyers commented to Jesus that by saying these things, Jesus was bringing a reproach on them as well. We often think of the lawyers and the Pharisees as being synonymous with one another, but they weren't. Not all lawyers were Pharisees, neither were all Pharisees lawyers. However, a large portion of them were. The lawyers here were offended that they were lumped in with those who were hypocrites, so Jesus turned to them next. Jesus' woe to them was that they bound heavy burdens on men, burdens that were hard to bear, but they wouldn't lift with one of their fingers. The law of Moses had some harder-to-follow commandments. Our study of Leviticus showed this. However, it was doable. If, though, a teacher of the law was teaching someone that they had to do something, then that teacher better be willing to do that same something themselves. Otherwise, they're being a hypocrite, which is what Jesus was accusing the lawyers of. He goes on to say that they build the tombs of the prophets, yet their fathers killed them. In fact, they bore witness that they approved of the deeds of their fathers, for their fathers killed the prophets, but they built the prophets' tombs. What is Jesus saying? By building up the tombs of those prophets, outwardly they were trying to make amends for the sins of the past, yet inwardly they approved of the deeds of their fathers. How do we know? They were trying to find a reason to kill Jesus, a prophet of God, yet in his wisdom would send this generation prophets and apostles, and yet some of those people would be killed as well. The blood of all the prophets from the foundation of the world would thus be required of this generation, because all the prophets were prophesying about Jesus, the man whom they would kill. In referencing the blood shed from the foundation of the world, Jesus said that it started from Abel to Zechariah, who perished before the altar. The position of these two deaths is quite striking if we understand the order of the Hebrew Scriptures. Abel, of course, was killed by Cain in Genesis, the first book of the Hebrew Scriptures. Although we don't think of Abel as a prophet, he was a righteous man who taught us by his example how to obey God. Zechariah was undoubtedly Zechariah the son of Jehoiada, the high priest, a prophet and a preacher of righteousness. In Matthew's account, he is referred to as the son of Berechiah, but just as Matthew and Peter had two names, we can conclude that Jehoiada had two names as well. Zechariah's death is recorded for us in 2 Chronicles 24, 20-22. In our English Bibles, the books of 1st and 2nd Chronicles occur right after 2nd Kings, near the middle of the Old Testament. However, in the Hebrew Bibles, 2nd Chronicles is the last book in the Old Testament, thus making Jesus' statement of the blood of the prophets being shed from Abel to Zechariah make much more sense. The final woe pronounced on the lawyers is that they had taken away the key of knowledge, meaning that even they themselves do not enter the kingdom. But worse than even that, they were hindering those who were entering. This was done by spreading false doctrine that could not save. That is a lesson for us today, that false doctrine prevents us and others from going to heaven. Naturally, the lawyers and Pharisees rejected Jesus' teachings because it went against their own. So they, from there on out, tried to question Jesus' teachings to see if they could catch him in his words. We will see this going forward in our future lessons in Luke. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Luke chapter 12, verses 1-12, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.